So if you're leading a team, you already know the core persistent challenge in talent management. It's how do we move past just that gut feeling or, the polished subjective answers we get in an interview to really predict if a candidate is going to succeed.
Right. And not just succeed, but thrive in your specific environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe most crucially, if they're going to stick around.
Because that turnover, it's not just an HR problem.
No, it's a direct business cost.
Yeah.
It drains productivity. It drains focus. For too long, we've relied on what candidates say they do, or maybe tests that just measure aptitude.
But not application.
Not real-world application. So today, our deep dive is into a really modern solution that's designed to, cut through that noise and give objective, bias-free data. It's called Workprobes.online.
Exactly. This is all about moving from prediction based on what someone says to prediction based on what you can actually observe them doing.
Okay.
At its core, Workprobes.online is an activity and decision-making based assessment. We use simulation to replicate real-life performance situations.
So what's the key differentiator here?
Well, the key is that candidates aren't asked hypotheticals. They're not describing their best traits. They have to execute actual tasks, actual operations within the simulation. They're basically doing the work.
And you're watching.
We're monitoring the choices they make while they do it.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. Because when managers hear assessment, their mind goes to a familiar place.
Sure.
Is this just another one of those long personality tests that sorts people into, vague categories? Or is it an IQ test? How is this fundamentally different?
It's a great question. It is definitively neither of those. It's not a capability test, and it's not a self-descriptive questionnaire.
Yep.
What we're specifically measuring is workplace behavior. And we view that behavior fundamentally as a matter of choice.
Behavior as choice. I like that frame.
It is, because it gets to the root of it. During these tasks, candidates have different ways they can proceed. They have to decide what behaviors to adopt.
Like what?
Well, which rules to prioritize, how much detail to really commit to, how fast to move. And by watching those choices, their actions, their priorities, we can provide completely objective, bias-free data.
Now, you said bias-free. That's a huge claim in the hiring world. I mean, unconscious bias is still a massive challenge.
It is.
So if the simulation is reflecting a work environment, how do you make sure the test itself isn't biased in some way?
That's a really critical question. The key is that we're not testing for, cultural fit in that traditional sense. We're testing fundamental operational choices.
For precision versus speed, things like that.
Exactly. Adherence to rules versus creative problem solving. How you approach monotony. These are universal. The data we get is numerical error rates, time on task, consistency. It removes that subjective filter you get in an interview.
So you're measuring how they work, not if you like their personality.
That's a perfect way to put it.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, for the HR managers and leaders listening, time is everything. So what does this look like for a candidate, and how efficient is it for the company?
It's designed for extreme efficiency. The whole thing is online, and it takes only about 20 to 25 minutes.
That's it. 25 minutes.
That's it. We keep it short and focused. And in that time, the candidate completes 3 distinct action tasks. No supervision.
And what are those 3 tasks trying to capture?
They're structured to measure how they handle 3 core things. First, the operational framework. Do they follow the rules?
Okay.
Second, day-to-day progress. Can they maintain pace and quality? And third, and this is maybe the most important for leadership potential, how they manage situations of uncertainty.
So when things go wrong.
Exactly. When the rules break down or they don't have all the information.
So in 25 minutes, you get this high-density action data. What does the company get? Because leaders don't want raw metrics. They need actionable insights.
Of course. You immediately get a comprehensive 3-level report. The first level is the rank table.
The rank table, what's on it?
This is your quick view. It's a single, easy-to-digest score based on a mix of precision, speed, and their overall drive for performance.
And what's the practical use of that score?
Its primary use, right out of the gate, is identifying specific accident risks.
I see.
So if a job needs high precision, but the candidate scores really high on speed and low on precision, well, that imbalance flags a potential issue right away.
Got it. So that's the quantitative snapshot. What's the next layer?
The second level is the competency map. This is more of a graphical map with 11 elements showing exactly how the candidate handled different tasks.
So it's the why behind the score.
Exactly. And this map is what we primarily use to identify a candidate's success enablers.
Success enablers. Okay, we'll definitely circle back to that. What's the final level of the report?
The third level, and often the most valuable for managers, is the integration profile.
The integration profile.
Yes, it's a detailed graphical description made specifically for hiring managers and HR. It helps prepare for interviews, but really its main job is to streamline onboarding.
So this sounds like it goes way beyond just the hiring decision. It's almost a management guide.
Yeah.
How does it help a manager after they've hired someone?
We actually call it the treatment manual.
The treatment manual, I like that.
It's a personalized operational guide for the new hire, built on data, not guesswork. It uses colored bars to show you what they need.
Okay, so what do the colors mean?
Green bars show the candidate's natural strengths. These are the areas where they'll just excel without you needing to do much. Blue bars, on the other hand, show the level of leadership intervention required.
Intervention required. And what if there's no color?
If their results are in the gray area, that's good. That indicates a normal, conflict-free collaboration. It means their natural style fits the role's needs.
Okay, let's focus on those blue bars. For a manager, how do I know if a blue bar means this person needs a little coaching versus this is a complete mismatch?
That's a crucial point. A small blue bar might just mean, this person prioritizes speed, so spend 15 minutes a week for the first month coaching them on double-checking their work.
Targeted, easy intervention.
Right. But a very large blue bar, especially across a few key areas, that signals a high risk. It tells the leader, this person might need micromanagement, or they might be in the wrong role entirely.
That is incredibly practical. So instead of a manager figuring that out over 6 months of frustration,
the data gives you the roadmap on day one. It tells you if they can work independently or not and what specific tasks they're best suited for.
it accelerates that whole path to success.
Precisely.
Can you give us some concrete examples? Like, how does this translate across different sectors?
Certainly. Let's take a high turnover environment like a call center.
Okay.
Our data found that turnover there is strongly linked to three things: tolerance for monotony, sticking to the script, so rule following, and perseverance.
How do you even measure monotony tolerance in 25 minutes?
You monitor their consistency over a short, repetitive task. Someone with low tolerance might start trying to change the process and make errors, or you'll just see their speed slow down dramatically. It shows mental disengagement.
So you can screen for that and immediately cut your turnover risk.
Right. Or think about manufacturing. The data helps a leader decide if someone is better for, say, monotonous assembly work or for quality control.
And how does it do that?
It comes down to whether their performance was dominated by speed, which is great for an assembly line, or by accuracy, which is critical for quality control.
You're matching the person's style to the task's nature.
Exactly. And that obviously helps with retention just as much as selection.
Because if you put people in roles that align with how they naturally work, they're going to be more satisfied and they're going to stay.
Absolutely. You increase their work satisfaction. You ensure they get quick personal success. You can spot the risk of someone with low monotony tolerance escaping their job by taking long breaks before it ever becomes a productivity issue on the floor.
Here's where it gets really strategic.
Yeah.
We've talked about avoiding churn and giving managers this treatment manual. So I'm going to pivot to maximizing potential. That brings us back to those success enablers. What does a success enabler actually look like when you apply it?
Success enablers are those specific traits that let someone thrive even when things are tough. It's about leveraging their inherent strengths.
Do you have an example?
We had a fascinating case with a student in a very difficult multi-year coding program. He was struggling academically.
Okay.
But the Workprobes data identified this incredibly high, just relentless level of perseverance. Because the professors had this hard data showing he simply would not quit, they were able to give him personalized support to keep him on track.
So the data helped them save a talent they would have otherwise lost.
That's it. It's all about optimizing that match between the company's needs and the candidate's natural choices.
That's a powerful story. You know, when you zoom out, this doesn't sound like just a hiring tool. It sounds more like a strategy tool.
It is.
Which leads to this bigger idea you have of companifying a business.
That's right.
That's a bold term. What do you mean by companifying?
Companifying is the process of aligning every single position with the core profit-producing processes of the company.
So getting out of those silos.
Exactly. So often, people end up in roles based on interview chemistry or just desperation, not an objective fit for a strategic process.
Right.
Workprobes acts as that diagnostic tool. It uses hard data to make sure people are put in the precise roles where their behaviors, their natural choices, will generate the most value.
So it's ensuring that the person in the quality control job actually leans toward accuracy over speed, which protects the profit stream.
Precisely. And it creates a huge transformation. You move your company from just being a collection of task executors
People just following instructions.
into a network of engaged, well-placed business contributors who are actively driving value.
Task executor versus business contributor. That really crystallizes the value here. It changes the conversation from are you qualified to are you optimized?
That's the goal.
Let me try to summarize this with a metaphor that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
A traditional interview. It's like looking at a still photograph of a car. You can see the model, the color, maybe the stated horsepower, but you have no idea if it actually runs or how it handles in traffic.
And we all know how often those beautiful photos hide some big mechanical problems.
Indeed. Workprobes, on the other hand, is like a performance test drive.
I like that.
It puts the candidate behind the wheel of a simulation to see how they actually steer under pressure, how they accelerate, and how they react to obstacles on the real road of your business. That difference?
Yeah.
A photograph versus a data-driven test drive.
Yeah.
That's everything.
And that leads to a final provocative thought for you to consider. Situations of uncertainty, the unforeseen problems, the tough trade-offs. What are you currently failing to test for in your hiring process? Because that data void is impacting your profit-producing processes right now. And then take a look at your team. How many are passive task executors versus proactive business contributors, and what would it take using objective data to finally bridge that gap? That's the strategic challenge.